welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that drives F1's worst cars, so you don't have to, from 2010 to the present day, whenever that might be, in what is normally the desperate hunt for points. But you can see on that screen, we have a fair number of them already. It is round 7 of 2015, the Canadian Grand Prix, my absolute favourite Formula 1 circuit to drive. And you join us off the back of a podium finish in a chaotic Monaco Grand Prix, where I went back and reviewed the footage from the incident with Raikkonen at the start of the race. We were 3 wide going into Mirabeau with Massa on the outside. Massa hit the wall and tore off his front wing, so it was just me and Raikkonen going into the Lowe's hairpin. I was on the outside. I left him space. He understeered into the side of the car, span, and then caused a pile-up, which eliminated 7 cars from the race. They were all disqualified because they weren't moving. Yeah, it was that kind of race. Lewis Hamilton was on his way to a pretty straightforward victory. And then he came across a slow-moving Fernando Alonso who had picked up a puncture, and it eliminated him from the race. He was the only DNF. Everybody else was a DSQ that didn't finish the race. We ran second, but with a 3-second time penalty. We bullied our way past Romain Grosjean and almost got far enough away from Vettel and Raikkonen behind us, but Vettel closed back in after we got past the stricken Alonso, and he jumped us on the penalty, but we still finished third. Bottas took the win, and as you can see, that means in the championship, because Rosberg scored and Vettel scored and Hamilton didn't, it's a German 1-2. Rosberg ahead of Vettel, then Hamilton in third, 33 points behind his teammate. Bottas moved up to fourth, ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, Felipe Massa and Daniel Ricciardo. We're actually closing on the Australian. Another poor race for the Honey Badger. We're in 8th ahead of Kvyat. Alonso finished in P10 in the end anyway and picked up a point to keep him in 10th. Grosjean got his first points of the season to catapult his way up to 11th. Hulkenberg is 12th. Maldonado's first points of the season saw him move to 13th. Nasser scored points. Perez didn't, Sainz didn't, Verstappen got his first points of the season. He moved up to 17th ahead of Ericsson, so it means that Will Stevens and Roberto Merri are the only 2 drivers without points so far this season. In the Constructors, Mercedes still lead the way, but the gap between them and Ferrari is not big. It's just a 33-point gap at this time. Williams are still in that mix as well, in 3rd. Red Bull are in 4th, kind of cut away from the top 3, and 24 points clear of us, so probably far enough away from us with the performance of this Honda engine. We're a distance ahead of Lotus, who got their first points on the board and moved up to 6th. Ahead of Force India, Sauber, Toro Rosso, and then Mana Marussia with nothing. Now at the bottom, as you kind of expect, unfortunately. But Canada is a circuit that I said is my absolute favourite Formula 1 circuit, and we've had decent results here to a point, at least in qualifying. Got pole back in 2010 and finished that race in P2, but we have not managed to score points since. We have not managed to get out of Q1 since, which for a circuit I love so very dearly is a pretty poor run of results. But so far this season, anywhere where we've not scored points before, Monaco, Spain, that sort of thing, we've come away with points. Anywhere we have scored points before, Malaysia and Bahrain, we didn't score, which is a worry. I would like to come out of Canada with some points, but it's been a while since we scored any. We should probably go and see just how difficult that could be and do some practice. While we do, we'll talk about the real world. 2015 Canadian Grand Prix. Formula 1 headed to Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix, and all of the talk pre-race was about the Mercedes pit stop, which cost Hamilton an almost certain victory last time out in Monaco. Hamilton still led the championship and was adamant he couldn't care less about what had happened. Verstappen arrived in Canada with a 5-place grid drop after his incident with Grosjean, which ended up being a 15-place grid drop after Toro Rosso had to fit his 5th engine of the year. First practice session saw few issues. Button having gearbox problems, Sainz going to a halt at pit exit, and Hamilton spinning when his car locked up. The spin wouldn't stop him topping the times though, 4 tenths ahead of Rosberg, with the Mercedes-powered Lotus of Romain Grosjean ending in third. As is often the case in Canada, the weather provided a curveball in the second practice session as rain hit the track. Mercedes chose to send both their drivers out on inters during the downpour, a decision which sent Hamilton into the barrier at the hairpin after aquaplaning. Once again, wouldn't stop him topping the times though, ahead of Vettel and Raikkonen. The rain would stay away in the third practice, but it had left the track lacking in grip. With 20 minutes left of the session, Felipe Nasr brought out the red flag after losing control of his Sauber in the final chicane, hitting the concrete wall. When the session resumed, Jenson Button would come to a stop at turn 7, bringing out another red flag and curtailing many drivers' run plans. Rosberg would top the times ahead of Raikkonen and Grosjean. After back-to-back Q2 berths, Jenson Button found himself stuck in the garage during Q1, his problems from practice not being resolved in time. The pair of Mana cars would also find themselves eliminated, but the other spots were occupied by front-runners struggling, Massa and Vettel. Both drivers complained of a lack of power, Vettel having MGUH problems. He would eventually find himself at the back after a 5-place grid drop for ignoring red flags in practice. Q2 provided no shocks, as Sainz, Verstappen, Ericsson, Alonso and Nasr all dropped out. Verstappen, knowing that his 15-place grid drop would see him sitting alongside Vettel at the rear of the field come race day. Mercedes-powered cars were the bulk of the top 10 shootout, with the pair of silver cars at the top, as had been the case for much of both 2014 and 2015 so far. Hamilton would take pole ahead of Rosberg, who was lacking rear grip. Raikkonen would put his Ferrari in third, ahead of Bottas, Grosjean, Maldonado, Hülkenberg, Kvyat, Ricciardo and Perez. A year earlier here, Rosberg had to defend robustly from his teammate, but Hamilton didn't need to return the serve here, as Rosberg got away poorly. Everyone was fairly well behaved in the opening couple of corners, save for Hülkenberg diving at the inside past Maldonado. Vettel had lined up in 18th spot, but was struggling to make ground on the slower traffic as he found his routes blocked through the opening stages, but he did find himself in a three-way tussle for 11th, with Ericsson and Massa by a lap 7. At this point, Ferrari elected to pit the German for an undercut that was slow dropping the car, costing him 3 seconds and dropping him to stone dead last. Hamilton kept Rosberg at bay in the early stages, but began to move clear of his teammate as the race progressed, the pair also dropping Raikkonen and Bottas at a rate of knots. It was becoming an unusual Canadian Grand Prix of safety cars to ease fuel worries, so most were now being told to lift and coast, most notably the pair of McLarens due to their lack of power and poor fuel economy. Hamilton's lead evaporated during the Mercedes pit stops, Rosberg getting a quicker stop and a quicker in and out lap to be in the tow of his teammate, meaning the German could save more fuel despite his brakes overheating. He asked how Hamilton was for fuel, only to be given no answer, as per the FIA's radio rules, which led to any potential battle fading. Raikkonen appeared on for the final spot on the podium until he span at the hairpin, gifting the spot to the Williams of Bottas, Ferrari puzzled by the incident. On the other side of the Ferrari garage, Vettel was cutting his way through the field, avoiding the scare with Hülkenberg late on. Hamilton would keep Rosberg out with DRS range to the end, taking the win by 2 seconds ahead of the other W06, while Bottas took third. Raikkonen would end at fourth, ahead of Vettel, Massa, Maldonado, Hülkenberg, Kvyat and Grosjean. Return to my favourite track, looking to actually have a good time after a few pretty poor seasons, but will qualifying bring a positive result? On the face of it, we should be struggling here without a lack of power, but there are ways around this place that the AI just don't know, so this might actually be a good chance of our best starting spot here since 2010. I'm going to aim for 7th spot as a conservative goal, but I'm praying to get us right amongst the guys at the front to have a really good Canadian Grand Prix.
From the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix for today's qualifying session. The Canadian Grand Prix has been dominated over the years by Ferrari, McLaren and Williams. They have over 30 wins between them, so I expect a good showing from all of those teams here again today.
That's true, but Mercedes have such a strong package this year, it would surely be a mistake to rule them out of a chance of winning. However, Montreal is a very different type of circuit though, where you have to run the lowest downforce settings of the season so far. It's also extremely hard on brakes, so it's all to play for in today's session.
We don't need to push too hard in this session. We should have the pace to qualify easily.
In the garage then, for qualifying in Canada, the team expect us to get into Q3 once again, and you know what? As much as we were bottom in practice, we were the only ones that only ran in the wet. So we might have the pace here. This is such a fun circuit to drive and somewhere I really enjoy. But I really do need to see how this car copes in dry weather conditions. So we're going to get out there nice and early. And let's hope we can do enough to get through. Fastest lap in Q1 then. Taking the line of least resistance across the line, which means we have to get out of it a little bit just to get the right angle through turn 1. Nicely through 1, a little wide through 2, but it doesn't seem to affect us too badly. But as you can see, already flying along. Can take an awful lot of liberties with the curbs across this entire circuit, but particularly through that 3-4 chicane as we round 5 and into 6. This one's a little bit tricky. It's a lot tighter than it is in the modern day, which means again having to ride the curbs a touch, but we're already up again in the first sector. Heading down under the bridge into the next little chicane again, you can bounce across the curbs and just carry a huge amount of speed, which is exactly what we do as we head down to the hairpin. As we get down there, we trip the timing line and we're nearly half a second up. Nearly ran a little wide, but managed to save it on the brakes into the hairpin, and we now just get onto the back straight, and then it'll be the final chicane past the Wall of Champions. Really didn't need to push too hard on this lap, knowing we were already faster than the likes of Vettel and Grosjean, and it was looking good, and we could jump the curb in there, keep it nice and straight, and then keep it right to the right hand side to the path of least resistance, and improve once again easily through.
That's the end of qualifying 1, and it's Nico Hülkenberg who's the surprise of the session after being knocked out.
Hülkenberg may have been knocked out, but we top the times in Q1. There are certain parts of this circuit that in these games you can really exploit, the final chicane up by the Wall of Champions being one of them, and I seem to be gaining a huge amount of time in that last sector. Knocked out though in Q1. Alonso just survives. Verstappen, Nasser, Hülkenberg, Stevens and Mary out. We continue on to Q2. The garage then for the second part of qualifying in Canada, and if Q1's anything to go by, this should be a breeze. I want to once again though get out early, get a lap on the board, see how that stacks up as the session progresses, and see if it gets us in to that top 10 shooting. In Q2 then, and as you can see on the top left, already up in 4th, but losing time to some of the cars we were hoping to be beating, or at least the ones we beat in Q1. Nicely through turns 1 and 2, this time not so much of a wide angle, and then it's into this 3-4 chicane again, right at the curves, maybe a little bit too much there, we get a warning, but nothing more, so we can consider it an opportunity to carry on. Already up by 0.3 of a second, riding the curbs again, which actually compromises our exit to a point where we scramble across the barrier. No damage though, pushing very hard, overheat the tyres as we go. Under the bridge for the next chicane, and much like Q1, ride the curb, run it out quite wide, almost getting the barrier there as well, showing how hard we're pushing as we get down to the hairpin. 0.4 of a second up once again, get nice and tight and along the apex. A couple of bites at the cherry to get the throttle down there because we didn't want to clip the barrier on the outside. We didn't matter so much though, still got a good run out of the hairpin, and we can just gun it towards the final chicane into the World Champions. Hopefully though, not actually straight into the wall as we bounce across the curb. Not quite straight line, having to back off just a little bit on the power, but we'll cross the line and improve once again.
Fernando Alonso won't be pleased with his qualifying result today. He's outside the top 10 and with a lot to do tomorrow if he's going to salvage something from the weekend.
Fernando Alonso doesn't make it through, but we do. Third place, just half a second behind Valtteri Bottas. And you can see that Kimi Räikkönen down there in 8th has got a 5-place grid drop, so he's really going to need to score big in qualifying. Knocked out, though, Kvyat, Sainz, Ericsson, Alonso and Perez. The pace has upped. We're probably going about as fast as we can, but we'll head into Q3 looking to maybe pinch a front row start for the second time this season. In the garage zone for the final part of qualifying in Canada. No great surprise, which is a little bit of a boast, but I really do like it here in this car. Much better than the ones we've had over the last few seasons, despite the fact in real life it did finish down in 9th in the Constructors. The pace did up in Q2, Bottas and Hamilton both nicking in just in front of us, but we're still within that half a second. I think if we can hook up a lap or two, we might be able to get on the front row. But let's go out there and see what we can get. The fastest lap then of the final qualifying session, and again, much like the other two sessions, up there amongst it, early doors, into turns 1 and 2, really nice and neat. Probably the best we've had through the 3 sessions in terms of entry and exit, as we then head towards the 3-4 chicane. A lot of curve this time, but no warning, unlike in Q2. So inconsistent track limits there as we head down towards the next chicane, marginally up on our best time, but then we get a little wide through the exit. Quite tough there. It always feels a lot tighter than you think it's going to be. But we know heading down under the bridge to the next chicane once again through that nice and cleanly. Rear tried to snap a little, but we corrected it and counted it quite nicely as we head to the timing line for sector 2. Actually, 2.5 tenths down. It's all going to be in this final sector, and we know exactly where we're going to pick up the pace in this one. Car is at its limit down this straight, DRS open and everything, really pushing hard, and we know we've got to make this final chicane count. So we get early on the brakes, try and spling it through, straight line it, get a corner cut warning, but only a warning. Continue the lap and improve to second for now.
Nice job.
What a great qualifying performance there by Sebastian Vettel. It's going to put him in a really strong position for the race tomorrow.
Well, I think he's going to be difficult to beat from pole, and if he can hold off any challenges in the first few laps, he'll create a gap and be off into the distance.
P5 in the end then couldn't hook up the ideal lap. Even my fastest lap involved some questionable lines through the final chicane. Vettel takes pole, and on our final lap where we were up, we were ahead of our best. He got past us on the back straight and then was just too slow through the final chicane. That's where I get all my pace. But he takes pole ahead of Rosberg, Raikkonen and Hamilton. We're 5th ahead of Bottas, Ricciardo, Massa, Grosjean and Maldonado. It's a really good place to start, I think. And a circuit like this that I really do enjoy driving, there is ample opportunity, I think, for us to maybe move forward quickly. But that's the, what we know, 5th Q3 appearance of the season, which is, I think, almost equal. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2 off. 2 off our 2010 total, which was pretty impressive back then anyway. Me counting as I record rather than knowing that off the top of my head. This car, yes, is better than the ones we've had over the last few seasons, but is still down on power. We demonstrated that in Spain. But if we can get a good start here and have a good couple of first laps and stay with the pack, we might be able to pull off quite the result. Let's head to the grid for the Canadian Grand Prix.
It's Sunday afternoon here in Montreal, and we're about to find out who's best prepared to take on this 4.3 kilometre track and, of course, the infamous Wall of Champions. An exceptional lap time yesterday saw Sebastian Vettel take pole. Can anyone touch him this weekend, or will it be a one-sided contest?
He'll want to stay out of trouble over the first few laps, but he'll be determined not to let any cars past him. If he can maintain that position once everything's settled down, he'll have a massive advantage and be able to control the race.
It was a disappointing race last time out for Lewis Hamilton. He needs to bounce back today. In the pre-race interviews, he's been talking a lot about the importance of mental strength and not dwelling on problems and bad performances.
Lewis can wear his heart on his sleeve and at times is led by his emotions. I think since his move to Mercedes though, he's showing a greater level of maturity, which is helping him become more consistent in his performances.
Thank you very much, Crofty, and you find us on the grid in P4, thanks to Kimi Raikkonen's grid drop penalty. Listen, this place is a circuit I really, really love, but this car, severely down on power. We've got two Mercs and a Ferrari directly in front of us, Williams, Ferrari and Red Bull in behind us. I feel like we might be quicker than some of the sort of midfield lower order, but these guys are going to be really tough to hang with. I'd love to move forward. I'd love to take another podium like we did in Monaco, but I don't think that's realistic here. I also don't think holding P4 is realistic. I think we're just going to get done for straight line speed, left, right and centre. So we're going to aim a little lower than where we started. We're going to aim for P8, try and just hang back behind the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Williams and the Mercedes, and be best of the rest, essentially. Come out of this with some points. But maybe if there's some carnage or if there's some incident, maybe we can make up some spots. Fairly short introduction because I really want to get into this race. This is one of my favourites. So let's get those 5 red lights on and then out again for the 2015 Canadian Grand Prix.
Okay, the run into turn 1 isn't too long, so the pack will be bunched up.
5 red lights are out as Jeff is giving us tips on turn 1. Rosberg gets a great start, jumps the pole sitter. Hamilton falls in line in third. We avoid Bottas on our inside. Maintain P4 off the line. Daniel Ricciardo though, immediately looking. Top 3 already begin to scamper away. Kind of as you'd expect, realistically, driving the McLaren of 2015. Everybody looks to have survived turn 1 though. Alonso has slipped way back though by the looks of it. Judging by where that yellow dot on the mini-map is compared to where he started. 3 are off and away. Try and stay competitive with these guys for as long as we can. But I really do think they're going to just run away and run past us pretty quick. Just got to try and run our own race. We can cross the line still in our starting spot. That'll be pretty good. It looks like we're going to do that. All over the curbs through the final chicane. Bottas is the man behind us. Rosberg's the man on the lead. We're up in 4. Already under threat from Valtteri Bottas. The Mercedes in the back of that Williams is just going to blitz us. Really, very little we can do, even without DRS. That run through the final chicane. We'll draw back alongside Bottas. Not going to make it easy for him.
DRS is now enabled and will be available to use when you are
Go for the inside of turn 1, and we will make it. Then he collects Ricciardo, and I think he sent him off. Clean defence from us. Bottas though got it all wrong in trying to come back, and he swiped Daniel Ricciardo off the road. These 3 should make fairly short work of me here. There goes Bottas. So I'll go next. Raikkonen will probably follow suit pretty quickly. Raikkonen will stay behind us again. We'll get a better run out of the final chicane. Should at least see us back past Massa for now. Send it into turn 1, and then this time it's Bottas who's round. Victim of his own over-aggressiveness. Massa is going to look at the inside of the next corner, and we have to really take an awkward line. The Brazilian behind us for now. Only a matter of time, I think. But those incidents between Bottas and Ricciardo, as we once again sort of just hold off Massa, has really broken the pack up. 2 people out as well. Possibly going to be Bottas being one of them. Look in a minute, Raikkonen and Massa should make fairly short work of us here. With 2 Lotuses in behind. No points before Monaco to in the points again in Canada. And Fernando is one of the ones that's out. Alonso's out. Yeah, a better run through the final chicane. At least get us back ahead of Raikkonen. We spook Massa in the same way as we spooked Bottas. No, we cannot. So he's through. Raikkonen dive bombs us up the inside at the next corner. Behind us for now. Long though, look at him go. A Ferrari so much quicker and he's through. Basically comes to a stop on the inside apex and we can just go back past. Fun little battle, Wes.
You've moved up to 5th, that's P5.
Comes Kimi Raikkonen again. Not going to defend too hard. We'll try and break us into the final chicane and won't make it. We know that Fernando Alonso is out. Daniel Kvyat is the other car that's out. Lost Massa now. Great chance here last year in the Caterham State Points and he didn't manage it. Raikkonen looking in a really awkward spot. Compromising both of us. Kimi squeezes through, but once again basically stops on the apex, gives the place back.
There's about a lap's worth of spare fuel in the car. You won't be able to run in mix.
Lotuses are closing on us at the moment. I think Raikkonen's going to get by this time. Leading the room, letting go. We'll probably find ourselves quicker through there because we can just swing it over the curbs, unlike the AI. He's staying with us this time. Here's Kimi. On the brakes again, back up the inside.
One of the Lotus drivers is about to pit. The crew are prepping for a stop.
Lotus is in already, as Raikkonen once again up the inside. Maldonado's still out on track, so it's Roman Grosjean that's come in. Early stop for Grosjean. Wide into the hairpin. Kimi drives into us, not the first time at a hairpin this season. Good to get us this time though. Oh, he sideswipes us a little.
Here's the current fuel level. We have 40 kilos remaining. 40 kilos.
Again, we're so much faster. Through the final chicane, a little bump. Didn't quite get the exit right this time, and Kimi is now in front of us. Which is where I think he will stay.
Vettel is in the pits. Vettel in the pits.
The lead car's starting to pit now. We're a few laps out from our supposed stop. That means that they're going to aim for a 2 stop, or whether they're just going to be much better on their tyres than maybe we will be. But either way, Vettel's been in. Raikkonen's been in as well, if I'm not mistaken. They must have either one after the other, or they've double stacked because they had a gap. They're ahead of Raikkonen now, P5.
Fitted the option tyre. They fitted the option tyres.
No, this Raikkonen had gone in, if I'm honest. Kind of got into a bit of a zone on her own.
To pit, the crew are prepping for a stop. Hamilton's just made a move for first.
Into P4. Massa's been in now as well. We've got maybe another lap or two until we need to pit. That's already back with us.
Fuel update. There's 30 kilos left.
Is he on option tyres again?
Of fuel remaining.
I guess these guys are all two-stopping. I feel like we might be able to get away with a one-stop as Massa gets caught on the curb in. Has to see the position again. We're heading in this lap.
Okay, remember to pit this lap.
Get a big tank slapper trying to move immediately to the left. I don't want them to be trying to get past us as we're heading into the pits. We are going to have to
P6.
drop the brake a little bit just to avoid going into the back of them, and into the pits we go. Well, Bottas is going to jump us. Is the car behind going to jump us as well? Maldonado is the person behind. They've all gone in a little earlier. Going to be close between us and Maldonado here.
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race.
Heading into turn one. Pit exit, we do get out in front of the Lotus. It looks like those guys at the front of the two-stopping are starting to make their second stops. Raikkonen's been in. I think one of the Mercedes might have been in as well. Vettel leading at the moment.
Big crew are out of the garage and ready to receive one of their drivers.
Should suggest that Bottas and or Massa will be in shortly as well. Might jump Bottas even briefly.
5 seconds on the car behind. Let's try to keep it that
Be
way.
just slowly edging away from Maldonado, so we're kind of in a fairly comfortable P7 at the moment. Just kind of driving our own race. Bottas is in. Jump Bottas. And we do, so we're into P6. At least for now. I don't think it's going to be long before that Williams was flying back past us though. To the back here of Will Stevens. To put a lap on the Man of Marussia car. Bottas is closing, as you'd expect. We're just trying not to make any silly mistakes. We're kind of comfortably coming home P7.
A lap faster than you. 1 second. You're pulling out your lead over Bottas. He's lapping 5/10 slower than you.
Another one of those moments I think here where Bottas will just cruise up to the back of us, and we're not going to make it too difficult, but we're also not going to make it super easy for him. So is he going to have a look here? No, he's not.
Okay, here's the fuel situation at the moment. We have 20 kilos remaining. That's 20 kilos.
There's Bottas though. Stay to the inside of him. Up at the hairpin now. Sticks there, much like F1 2015 AI normally do. DRS off Stevens though at least, so
You've fallen into P7.
we're going to P7. Be careful through there because Stevens is going to be much slower.
If you keep this up, it could become a
Oh,
problem.
that Will Stevens. Bottas is gone. Massa in the pits now. Don't think we're going to jump him.
That's P6. P6.
We Bottas gone in again. I think Bottas has pitted again. He's picked up damage, lapping somebody, I'm not sure. I saw Bottas had already taken his second stop. Here we are, P6, once again, back in front of the Finn.
Rosberg's really going for it. He's just put in the best lap of the race so far.
Roman Grosjean has actually just been lapped by Roberto Merri. Grosjean and Maldonado have had it going together. Grosjean's going to be fast enough to try and unlap himself, but as soon as he does, he's going to have to slow down for blue flags. He just shouldn't worry about it. Lap Roberto Merri now.
Bottas behind. The gap is 7 seconds. 6 laps to go.
7 seconds to Bottas with not many laps left. Should be able to put this into rich mix to the end now. Let's see if we can just stay ahead of the Finn and take what is realistically an unlikely P6 with our P4 starting position.
Massa's lapping a second faster than you. Massa 1 second faster last lap.
On the penultimate lap, there's Valtteri Bottas. This really could be a futile cause. I've seen on a number of occasions in this race how easy it is for those guys to just breeze past this car. We can stay in front of him. I think P6 might be out of the question. On the exit of the hairpin, Bottas should have us here quite easily. There he goes.
There's 10 kilos of fuel left. 10 kilos of fuel. We're down to 7th place. P7.
Yeah, better exit out of the final chicane as we head on to the final lap of the race. But Bottas, much quicker than us, we will attempt to spook him through turn 1 and 2 again, as we did earlier in the race. Don't manage it. Bottas is through. We'll set to P7 on the final lap. Still not a bad effort though. Hamilton gets the fastest lap to end the Grand Prix. He crosses the line and wins in Canada. It's been a fairly lonely race for us for the most part. Started P4, we were always going to struggle against the likes of Williams, Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari. Had a good fight with Massa and Bottas for periods of the early stages. Bottas got involved in some incidents that wiped him and Ricciardo off circuit. He's come back though with his pace. Ricciardo nowhere to be seen up near the front, but we're going to come home P7 for another point score. Through the final chicane, there's Bottas crossing the line. We'll take P7 on the road.
It's a win for Mercedes and a win for Lewis Hamilton. The British driver was the class of the field today and fully deserves his victory.
It was a fantastic performance and one that they should be very proud of. Every part of the team pulled together to achieve today's result.
There'll be plenty more twists and turns to come this season. I hope you can join us at the next race to see just who will come out on top.
Well, it looked like a hard-fought race up at the front. Hamilton, though, emerges victorious ahead of Nico Rosberg. Vettel is in third, then it's Raikkonen, Massa, Bottas. We finish 7th. Maldonado's in 8th. We're all on the lead lap. Everybody else is at least a lap down. Hulkenberg takes 9th ahead of Max Verstappen, who picks up more points in P10. Ricciardo could only recover to 11th ahead of Sainz, Ericsson, Nasser, Perez, Mary and Stevens, who finished 2 laps clear of Romain Grosjean. He had a bad day. Kvyat and Fernando Alonso don't manage to finish. What does that do to the drivers' standings? Well, the top 10 all remain in place. Nico Rosberg leads by 25 points, ahead of Vettel, who's just ahead of Hamilton by a point. Bottas is there in 4th ahead of Raikkonen, Massa, Ricciardo. We remain 8th, but now 6 points behind the Honey Badger and 10 clear of Kvyat. Alonso remains 10th, but Pastor Maldonado draws level on points with him. They're just ahead of Hulkenberg. Grosjean slips to 13th, and it's Nasser, Perez. Max Verstappen moves to 16th ahead of Sainz and Ericsson. Stevens and Mary remain pointless at the bottom, while in the constructors, everybody stays exactly where they are. Mercedes lead Ferrari by 49. Williams stay 3rd, quite clear of Red Bull, who again didn't score any points. We move just a few points closer to them now. It's now just an 18-point gap to the Milton Keynes outfit. We're still ahead of Lotus, Force India, Sauber, Toro Rosso and Mana Marussia. And that was a fairly uneventful Canadian Grand Prix, but that is the kind of race you need after the chaos of Monaco, and to come away with points as well. Absolutely ideal for our cause this season. We're now getting into the real thick of it in the European season as we head to the next round. Hopefully you enjoyed this one here at Canada. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff. I'll see you soon for the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.